What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Morphic X8, aka MX8. We're talking the finals. Wanted to touch base on why people aren't better at the finals, or more people aren't playing the finals, I should say. Because everyone that I talk to and everyone that I've seen that has played the finals absolutely loves the game. And it got me thinking, why is it not more popular? I think that there's a few things that Embark ran into when they released the game that kind of got it off to a slow start. I think that the game was released in 2023, December of 2023. And when you look at the time frame of when the finals was released, it was on the back end of the peak for BRs in the gaming genre. And I'm talking about first-person shooters, even third-person, but mostly first-person shooters. And 2023 was, I would say, like the first year where we had gotten over the effects of COVID. And content creation, streaming, gaming in general was at an all-time high in 2020, 2021, and 2022. You had the release of OG Fortnite, Warzone was really popular, Valorant came out, you had Apex, which was coming off their peak, more so in 2019, 2020. And so you had people that were at home for an extended period of time playing these BRs and an arena shooter in Valorant. They got really good at those games. When you can play for 8 to 10 hours a day because you're not going to work and you can't go into a public setting, I feel like the player base for FPSs got really, really talented and really obsessed with these games. You know, you had your Overwatch, you had other releases like Deadlock that came out, and Deadlock kind of fell victim to the same issues, I think. A new game gets released in 2023, and I believe Deadlock was 2024, and nobody wanted to switch their game because they put so much time and effort into Apex, into Warzone, into Fortnite, into Valorant, that when the finals was released, it had a little bit of all of those games. The finals isn't a hero shooter. It's a hero builder, I heard once. It has a different style of gameplay. It takes place in an arena, but it's also objective based. It's a game you have to know how to shoot your gun, but more so how to play with a team and strategize to get cash outs. And that's the objective. And I think people just were so used to playing BRs where they dropped into a map, they're the last one alive, and they win the game. In 2023, when everybody kind of got back to work and got back to some semblance of a normal life, they didn't have the time nor the patience to put into a game that wasn't like any other game they played. I felt like you could hop into Fortnite and play some games in Fortnite and then hop into Apex, and it's more or less the same kind of game. Granted, yeah, it's one's first person and one's third person, but the objective is the same. So you don't have to really think too far outside the box to play the game. You boot up and you do the same thing. It was the same for Warzone. I think people just kind of got used to the meat grinder of Warzone or Modern Warfare. I think that Valorant came out at a good time to where it added a different element. It was an arena shooter, not a BR. You had heroes just like Apex. So you had some sort of strategizing, but you really didn't have to worry about movement or verticality. In the finals, you have to worry about that. You have to consider not only what the other team is doing, but how they can do it to such an extent that you're not just worrying about their specialization or their gadgets or, you know, whether or not you're getting beamed, but their positioning and the possibility of how they can infiltrate a building or how they can manipulate the cash out. Then you add the element of the third party. So I think the finals was an extremely challenging game considering that people's mindset at the time was very BR oriented. You know, you had streamers like Nick Mercs who went from Warzone over to Apex. You know, you had people go from Valorant and try out Deadlocked, or Overwatch to Valorant, or even when Marvel Rivals came out, it's basically Overwatch, just with different characters, different abilities, different maps, but the same game. The finals gives you a fresh take on all of that. And I think when the finals was released, it was shadow dropped. There was no marketing, so a lot of people didn't even know the game existed. And then the first season had a lot of balance issues that frustrated people. I think people made an attempt to learn the game, but it was difficult. I personally had a blast in the nuke meta, just blow everybody up, but I totally understand why it was frustrating and people didn't continue to play. I think season 2 was a really good season. They made some adjustments and made the game more viable, but it still was imbalanced in that the idea of the finals was to have a light, medium, and heavy, and you really didn't get that. You had a lot of 3 stacked mediums, double heavies, and the light class, which I'm a heavy main, but the light's fun to play, wasn't viable competitively. And I think that was one of the reasons why the finals struggled that first year. There wasn't a competitive scene. People felt like they had put so much time and effort into other games that they might have a chance to play competitively. And the finals didn't offer that in the beginning. And I don't think the game was ready either. I think that people felt like, well, I've put 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 hours into this game. You know, I'm pretty good at it. Why would I want to stop playing it and start a new game that's different than anything else I've ever played? It has similarities, but overall, it's a completely unique game. It's objective-based and team-based more than any other game, other than I would say maybe Valorant and Apex. People just didn't have the time that they once did during COVID to learn a game. So I think you see in the pro scene now, a year and almost 2 years later for the finals starting to develop because there's been enough time for people to get proficient at the game. The finals offers a unique play style in which, yes, there's a meta. At the top of the competitive scene, you'll see pros running certain amount of loadouts for different maps and different situations. But overall, the game is viable no matter what you want to play. I've seen people be successful with a bow, with a sledgehammer. They're not just running shotgun on a heavy or a pike on a medium. You see ARs being used. You see pistols being used. You see invis, dash. You don't see grappling hook. I do think that needs a buff. You see mesh shield, winch. You know, you see now this season in season 8 of the finals, you see the heal beam making a comeback. I feel like Embark has done a really good job of being on top of making adjustments rapidly, not just at the beginning of a new season. And I feel like their map diversity is really, really good. I mean, it took, 5-6 seasons to get a new map in Apex. Finals will give you, started out with a decent amount of maps, but will give you a new map every few seasons, you know, on top of the amount that they have already. So I feel like Embark has done a really good job at hearing the player base and making the adjustments and keeping the content fresh. But I think that people just realize they're just not good enough to play the finals. They'd rather just get home from work and play the game that they're already somewhat decent at. You have this inequality in the finals where you have people that have stayed committed, a small group of people that stayed committed since the beta or season 1 and are really proficient at the game. And then you have the casual that's trying the game out and they're just getting rolled, which becomes extremely frustrating because there's no SBMM. So you can get matched up with anybody. The ranking system is one of the more difficult ranking systems I feel like in any first-person shooter. So it's hard to feel like you're doing well. It takes time to learn. It really does. It's a game that I've been playing since season 1 and I'm not that great at it. I do well enough, but for the amount of time that I've put into the game, you would think that I'd be better. But it's just that hard. So I think people are coming around to playing the finals. I think people are realizing that it is a fun game, that it is competitive, that it does have a viable esports scene, and that the more people put content out and the more that people make videos and explain how the interface works, it's attracting more new players and increasing the player base, which will increase the competitive scene. The finals did just have their open qualifiers and their closed qualifiers, and they have a $100,000 tournament in Sweden in November, and I think that's really good for their esports scene. You have orgs like Alliance that have joined, Envy, Pulsar, Nightmare, Space Station Gaming. These are reputable orgs that have been in other scenes like Counter-Strike, like Overwatch, like Apex. And so I think it's bringing more attention and more eyes to the finals. I think that you have Moist Critical who's streaming the finals now. You had Deltouche from Apex streaming the finals. You've had Lyric playing the finals. Even Dr. Disrespect has played the finals. And I think with the more eyes that content creators bring to the game, the more the player base will grow and people will take a chance and try to get involved. But I think that was their main issue, is that the game came out at a weird time right off of COVID, and people just didn't have the time to put in to learn a new game when they were already good at another game. So I think the finals is one of those first-person shooters that will get better with time. It's going to age like wine. Whereas other games like Apex that are starting to fall off, and, you know, Warzone, I don't even know the state that game's in now at this point. You do have Battlefield coming out, which I think will be good and may have a competitive scene. Battlefield isn't the finals. The verticality in finals, the unpredictability of the finals, the map destruction is the best in the business. And I don't see anything on the horizon that can compete with it.